Right now, you are living inside the most powerful nation in human history. Not because it has the largest army ever assembled, it does not. Not because it invented democracy, it did not. But because, for roughly the last 80 years, one country has produced more wealth, projected more military force, and shaped more of global culture than any single empire that came before it. And that country almost did not happen. Here's the thing that nobody tells you about America's rise to number one. It was never supposed to work. The land was considered worthless. The colonies were an afterthought. The revolution should have failed. The expansion depended on luck, betrayal, and timing so absurdly perfect that if you wrote it as fiction, no one would believe it. This is not a story of destiny. This is a story of accidents, and you are living at the end of it. When Christopher Columbus landed in the Caribbean in 1492, he was not looking for a new world. He was looking for spices, gold, a faster route to Asia. He found none of those things, but he called the people he met Indians anyway, because he was certain he had reached the edge of Asia. He was wrong. He had stumbled into a hemisphere that Europe did not know existed, and for more than 100 years after Columbus, most of North America was completely ignored. Here is why. Spain and Portugal drew a line down the middle of the known world. Everything to the east of that line belonged to Portugal. Everything to the west belonged to Spain. The Portuguese sailed around Africa and built a trading empire in Asia. The Spanish conquered the gold-rich civilizations of Central and South America, the Aztecs, the Incas, and extracted wealth on a scale Europe had never seen. And North America? The Spanish sent one expedition into it in 1539. They found no gold, no silver, no cities with treasure, so they left it. For more than 100 years, the entire eastern seaboard of what you now call the United States sat there, unexplored, unclaimed, unwanted. The land was not useless. The land was simply invisible to the empires that mattered. But here's the part people forget. While the Spanish were ignoring North America, the English sent their own explorer, John Cabot, to its shores. That was 1497, 16 years before the Spanish even reached Florida. And after that, the English waited. For nearly 100 years, they did nothing. Their first colony at Roanoke in 1585 disappeared without a trace. Their second attempt at Jamestown in 1607 barely survived. And yet, slowly, English settlers kept arriving. Not because England had a plan, because England had problems. Religious conflict, overcrowding, economic desperation, and North America was far enough away to make those problems feel smaller. By the time anyone in Europe noticed, the east coast of North America was covered in British colonies. And those colonies were about to become something no one expected. By 1754, two empires were competing for North America. The British colonies along the coast had more than 1 million people. The French controlled a vast territory in the interior, but with only 60,000 settlers. The French allied with native tribes. The British allied with other native tribes. They fought. The British won. You know what happens when empires win wars? They need money. The war is over. Now someone has to pay for it. Britain looked at its American colonies and decided the colonies should pay. New taxes, stamp taxes, tea taxes, taxes on things the colonists had bought freely for generations. And here is the detail that changes everything. The colonists did not object to paying taxes. They objected to paying taxes without having any say in the government that taxed them. No representation, no vote, no voice. Just a bill from a parliament 3,000 miles away. That disagreement turned into a fight. The fight turned into a revolution. On July 4th, 1776, the colonists declared independence from the most powerful empire on earth. You need to understand how absurd this was. Britain had the largest navy in the world. Britain had a professional army. The colonies had farmers with muskets. The colonies had no central government, no standing army, no tax system, no allies. On paper, this was not a war. This was a formality. But here is the thing nobody tells you about that war. The Americans did not win because they were stronger. They won because Britain was also fighting France, Spain, and the Netherlands at the same time. 4 wars on 4 fronts across 3 continents. The American Revolution was not the main event. It was a side theatre. Britain let it go because holding on to the colonies was not worth losing Europe. And so, in 1783, the United States of America existed, barely. The new nation almost collapsed before it began. The government created by the Articles of Confederation could not collect taxes, could not raise an army, could not enforce laws. 13 colonies had become 13 independent countries, united in name, divided in everything else. The founders wrote a new constitution. They argued for months. They barely held it together. And in 1789, George Washington became the first president of a country that was still trying to figure out if it was a country. America in 1789 was small. Everything west of the Mississippi River belonged to Spain. Everything. The United States was a thin strip of land along the Atlantic coast, surrounded by empires that were older, larger, and more established. Then Napoleon happened. Napoleon Bonaparte seized power in France and wanted to rebuild a French empire in America. He made a secret deal with Spain to take back Louisiana, a territory that stretched from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains. The Americans found out, and they were terrified. The Mississippi River was the highway of the American interior. Every farmer west of the Appalachians used it to ship goods to market. If Napoleon controlled the mouth of the river at New Orleans, he controlled the American economy. So the Americans asked France to sell them New Orleans. Napoleon had other plans. He planned to invade Britain. To fund that invasion, he needed money. And the last thing he needed was the Americans siding with Britain in the coming war. So he made a decision that changed the world. He sold not just New Orleans, he sold the entire Louisiana territory, 828,000 square miles, doubling the size of the United States, for $15 million. $15 million. That is roughly 42 cents an acre in today's terms. The United States doubled in size in a single afternoon. Not because America was powerful, because Napoleon was distracted. The population was also exploding. The average American family had 7 children. Every generation was twice as large as the one before it. Those people needed land, and now there was land, stretching all the way to the Rocky Mountains, most of it unoccupied, all of it waiting. Americans moved west. They settled Texas, which belonged to Mexico. They outnumbered the Mexicans, declared independence, and then asked to join the United States. A border dispute turned into a war. America won. And for another $15 million, it took California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado and Wyoming. Then the British, peacefully this time, agreed to split Oregon along the 49th parallel. And in just 50 years, America stretched from the Atlantic to the Pacific, sea to sea, a continent glued together by luck, ambition, and one very ugly war. Everything looked perfect from the outside. Gold was discovered in California. Free farmland was available in Oregon. Immigrants poured in from Europe. America was growing faster than any nation in modern history. But there was a crack running straight through the center, and that crack was slavery. In the North, slavery was illegal. Many considered it a moral evil that had to be stopped. In the South, slavery was the foundation of the economy. Cotton, tobacco, rice, all produced by millions of enslaved people. The country had been arguing about this for decades, patching together compromises that kept the Union together, but solved nothing. Then, Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860. Lincoln was not an abolitionist. He did not campaign on ending slavery. He campaigned on preventing its spread into new territories. But the South did not believe him. Most of the slave states seceded. They formed their own country, and the United States went to war with itself. Here is the number that matters. 620,000 Americans died in the Civil War. More than every other American war combined. World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, all of them together. 620,000 people in a country of 31 million killed by their own countrymen. The North won. Slavery was abolished. The Union was preserved. And the United States, scarred, exhausted, still bleeding, turned its attention outward. Something shifted after the Civil War. America stopped being a country that things happened to and started being a country that made things happen. Russia wanted to sell Alaska. Nobody else wanted it. The Russian ambassador asked America if they were interested. The Americans offered $5 million. Russia asked for $7 million. America agreed. The deal was signed overnight, literally. The American negotiator was so eager that he asked to finalize the treaty at midnight, afraid Russia might change its mind. Then Hawaii. American businessmen had taken control of the Hawaiian Islands and asked Washington to annex them. President Grover Cleveland said no. He believed America should be a just nation that did not exploit the weak. But others feared if America did not take Hawaii, Germany or Japan would, and use it as a base to attack the American West Coast. Then the Spanish-American War. Cuba was fighting for independence from Spain. American newspapers covered the brutality of the Spanish response in graphic detail. An American warship, the USS Maine, exploded and sank in Havana Harbor under mysterious circumstances. America blamed Spain. Spain declared war. Within months, America had captured Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines, effectively ending the Spanish Empire that Columbus had begun 400 years earlier. During that same war, America annexed Hawaii. Then it pressured Colombia to let it build a canal through Panama. When Colombia refused, America supported Panamanian separatists, recognized their independence within days, and got its canal. In a single decade, America went from a continental nation to a global empire, with territories in the Caribbean and the Pacific, the second largest navy in the world, and a canal that let it move that navy between oceans in hours instead of weeks. Most empires build themselves over centuries. America built its global reach in roughly 10 years. Not because it had a master plan, because opportunities appeared, and America, for better and for worse, said yes. The United States of America was built on a continent nobody wanted. Its revolution succeeded because its enemy was distracted. Its territory doubled because a French emperor needed quick cash. Its civil war nearly destroyed it, and yet it emerged stronger, more unified, and suddenly interested in the world beyond its borders. And within a single decade, at the end of the 19th century, it transformed from a nation into a superpower. None of this was inevitable. Every step depended on timing, accident, and choices that could easily have gone the other way. If Napoleon had not invaded Britain, if Mexico had been stronger, if the Civil War had divided the country permanently, if Russia had found another buyer for Alaska, any one of those changes, and the country you live in right now does not exist. And now, look at you. You wake up in a nation that produces more than a quarter of the world's wealth. Your government influences elections on the other side of the planet. Your culture, your music, your movies, your language reaches people who have never set foot on American soil. The flag that was raised over 13 struggling colonies now flies over military bases in more than 80 countries. You are living at the end of a chain of accidents that somehow produced the most powerful nation in human history. And the chain is not finished. It is still happening, right now, with you in it. If you want to understand how that chain continues and where it might break, subscribe. We explain the forces that shaped your world, one story at a time.